Is astrology a guide to aid us in mastering the universe? This is the Cosmic Community Podcast with Galactic Ambassador Stacey Dredd. I want to welcome some beautiful people listening. HL, thanks for tuning in. Melissa, hey sister. Whitney, hope you're having a good day. And welcome everybody in here to the Cosmic Community. We have come off of a big full moon week just last week on the 1st of August. We had our full moon right at the first of the season here. That was our full moon in Aquarius. And we are moving along through Leo season. And this week, the theme definitely feels very lion-like, coming in like a lion, yet I feel as though the week will go out like a lamb. And so, lots to get into. We are coming to you today on August 8th from the Pacific West Coast. That is the 8-8 Lionsgate. And so those people who are tuned in there, I got a little bit of extra information about that given to me. And this is the rising, the 8-8 Lionsgate tracks the rise of the star Sirius in the sky. Did you know that? The star Sirius is extremely bright. In fact, I think it's the brightest star in the night sky, but it does get hidden by the sun because it tracks behind the sun, or the sun moves in front of it, so we can't see it. And then it rises again. And in the 8-8 Lionsgate is when this spiritual sun, Sirius, known as the spiritual sun in ancient traditions, and apparently in Egyptian tradition, Sirius would actually line up rising over like the knuckles of the Sphinx and was known as the spiritual sun. And this was known as a time of rebirth because Sirius comes back out from behind the sun and is in a way rebirthed. And this is known as a rebirth. And it's one of the 2 points that are really making this kind of perfect alignment and aligning with the sun this week. We also have later in the week on August 13th, the Venus Starpoint, which is when Venus is actually going to be moving behind the sun and she's covered by the brightness of the sun. And she then pops back out as the morning star, and that's Venus's rebirth in the morning sky. So we have a lot of rebirth energy. And so that's what it felt to me like, in like a lion, out like a lamb. Doesn't that kind of represent, in a way, birth just in general? It starts out with a lot of unknowns and a lot of maybe possibly built up energy. It's definitely birthing is a culmination point. And so it can come on very strong, and then it requires a lot of work most of the time. I think for some people it can be a very different experience, but kind of the traditional understanding of birthing takes a lot of work, and then it's like a kind of a relief in the end and a whew at the end. And there's that feeling of, all right, I can start again. And so we have the feelings of like labor very much in the sky this week. So that is the 8-8 Lionsgate. And then on August 9th, we have the first of some of the squares that we are dealing with over the next few days. And I always say squares are like things we deal with because it actually requires action. When we have squares in the astrological chart, it asks of us to work on something. And so that can be tense and that can feel like something we want to push against. But this week kind of has that energy of gripping in, and instead of like running away, we're kind of having to face what's happening right now. And these squares are starting off on 8:08 in the evening, we actually have the moon coming into a square with Venus. And so this is just like a tougher energy coming into the evening of August 8th. It can be hard when the moon is square Venus to find Venusian pleasure, to find pleasure in things. Like things just don't feel as pleasurable. Food doesn't taste quite as good as when Venus is in like a good aspect with the moon. And so that starts us off. And then on August 9th, we have the second of 3 squares that Venus in her retrograde is making with the planet of Uranus. Uranus is the planet of change and awakening. And so a square with Uranus always requires us to be flexible. There's going to be something that goes not according to the plan on August 9th. And this is the second of 3 passes that Venus is making during her retrograde with Uranus. Venus is our planet of love and relationships and trust and money. And when she's retrograde, we are just reconsidering these types of themes in our life. And so Venus retrograde is already sort of dimming down our love light right now. And when planets are in retrograde, they're a little unpredictable. It's a little hard to know how this energy is going to be playing out. And with a square to the unpredictable planet of Uranus, this is creating some unpredictable moments within this Venus retrograde. The first square between Venus and Uranus was on July 2nd. She wasn't quite retrograde yet, so she ran into Uranus. There was a square on July 2nd. We had some sort of breaking in to the Venus retrograde plot here. Like, what was it all going to be about for us? Venus retrogrades for many months at a time, so it turns into one of these cycles that we work with for many months at a time. And so we're tuning into the second of the 3 squares between Venus and Uranus, getting some more information around what this Venus retrograde is all about for us, what we're working on, what is going to be required of us, what does this square represent, how we're going to need to step up and work with the energies here. And then other square that day comes later in the evening. That is the moon squaring Saturn. And this can be sort of one of those energies, Saturn representing our responsibilities and the serious things in life. The moon is our mood and how we feel. And so a square between the moon and the responsible planet of Saturn can create sort of some oppositional energy of, I'd rather not deal with something that's requiring me to be responsible right now. And so that is a little bit extra of tough square energy on August 9th. As the day of August 9th does go along, though, we do get a little bit of, it's a more easier flowing energy between Mercury in a trine with Jupiter. Although Jupiter has been slowing down and is slowing down to go retrograde, Mercury also is doing the same. So these planets' expression is maybe just a little more shaded right now. It's a little slower. It's a little less thought out. And so when these energies are kind of slow like this and they come into a trine, it's a really easy energy to get maybe some lower vibrational expressions. This can be between Mercury, the planet of communication, and Jupiter, the planet of kind of making things bigger than they are, providing more opportunity and putting more energy towards it. That Mercury and Jupiter in a trine can sometimes be a bit of exaggeration, like saying too much, maybe even. And so on the evening of August 9th, it's kind of one of those times where you can expect to hear things maybe presented in kind of a bigger way than it's a little exaggerated, and so you have to kind of be careful about what we're hearing the evening of August 9th, moving in to August 10th. And also be careful of how you are saying things, and try not to say things, try not to say too much, or say something in a way, or let things come out in a way that may not be exactly the way that you intend them to be. As we move into the morning of the 10th of August, we have a square between the moon and that Mercury. And so again, just a little bit of a tougher energy there with communication. Maybe just continue to kind of hold back if there's things that the communication's like not coming together. Okay, it didn't work the night of August 9th, and it's like still not working out during the 10th. Like, it's a good time to just kind of let things be the way that they are. Later in the evening, more square energy on August 10th. And again, squares can be tough and challenging, but they do require us to take action. And so they can be a way for us to level up. And we have a square between the moon, again, representing our mood and how we feel, and just kind of the general mood of how things are feeling. And Mars, the planet of sort of overconfidence, aggression. In this case, Mars is a very fast moving Mars. And so I say like over aggression because when Mars is moving direct, there's not much pre-thought about actions that are taken. And so this is a interesting energy between the moon and Mars, where we may not be exactly in line, our mood and the action that we take. So we want to make sure to take a little extra time on August 10th as this energy sort of culminates and moves into August 11th. We have that same Mars coming off of kind of a tense energy with the moon, and coming into a quincunx with Chiron. Chiron, a different energy being brought in this week, but in a annoying aspect. Mars is a physically fast moving energy. It wants to just take steps, kind of shoot first and ask questions later. And Chiron is a more well thought out energy and is also retrograded right now. And so there is kind of this difference between what's going on in the heart, what's going on in the head, and what's going on in the body this week. It's all just kind of all over the place. And so the most that we can do to get grounded this week and to stay present within all of this, realize that all emotions and all astrological events and all aspects and all things of life are just like waves of the ocean, and they will just roll over us, and in comes another one. And so we can give and release as we need to this week as these energies come flowing through. Then the big true culmination point, in my opinion, for this week and also for August the 13th. This is the Venus Starpoint. This is when the Sun and Venus come into a conjunction. She slips behind the Sun, so Venus is overshadowed by the light of the Sun. It's known as her being in the heart of the Sun. And this could be definitely a clarity point, as the Sun brings brilliance and clarity. And it's all about you when the Sun's involved. So this is, to me, feeling like a personal point of expansion, as this week has been, kind of tough, and we've had to roll with the punches this week, that by the 13th, with the Venus Starpoint, we are feeling blessed. We are feeling brilliant. We are feeling like we have a light shining on us in the right way, and that we can truly find that focus that you can find when a spotlight is directly pointed on something. The Venus star point, this conjunction between the Sun and Venus, is the time when she, this is her turning point in her retrograde also. And so we could certainly feel some clarity. We could certainly feel charismatic. That's another thing that Venus star points are all about, is you could just be like beautiful. There's just this shining inner light and this shining beauty going on there. So if you have any news to drop on anyone, you have something that you've been waiting to give, to communicate, this could be a really good time to do it, or at least to wait until after the star point happens. Right around this time, we can be more attractive, more charismatic. We can be received in a better light, in a more benevolent light. Just we can be seen in a different way by others when this kind of brilliance is out in the ethers. So do enjoy that and use it wisely. It's not super rare, but this star point is taking place in Leo, which we won't have available to work with for a while. So Leo is all about our heart and finding our true passion and finding that light within that really becomes that compass that we use moving forward. That day, August 13th, also has with it, and the day before, August 12th, some easier energy. So I feel like as tough as the beginning of the week comes in like a lion, once we move, the moon moves into Cancer on the afternoon of August 11th. And then on the 12th, the moon has a trine with Saturn, helping us to be more in tune and more accepting of our responsibilities. There's a trine between the Sun and Chiron, which is bringing in healing to the wounded warrior, Chiron, and releasing any type of angst or physical things that were built up from that quincunx from the day before with Mars, with Chiron, and then a sextile that evening, another sextile the morning of the 13th. Jupiter and Mercury both get sextiles from the moon over the night, and sextiles are just very smooth. They allow in free-flowing energy, make things a little easier. Then that Venus star point hits. It's just this brilliant, charismatic turning point for the month here. Then we have a sextile with Mars that morning, which is like, let's take action on something that's really going to be useful for us. And then a sextile with Uranus, which is like feeling good about being spontaneous and like making things happen. And then a trine with Neptune that day. I mean, that day is filled with so many good vibes. As far as the mood goes, it's creative, it's forward flowing, it's spontaneous, and it's a good communicator. So use August 13th for that big punch of power that it has available. And then moving into, I guess the third week of August already. I can't believe it. Just kind of looking forward into next week. We have on August 16th, a new moon in Leo coming up. So we are in a week of, this week, we're in a week of the closing up of a moon phase. We are coming off of that full moon in Aquarius, and that's the culmination point. Now we are finishing up and allowing for new beginnings to take place once that new moon in Leo happens. It's a very heart-driven new moon. We basically make a promise to our own heart, to be driven by it just a little bit more. And so that new moon in Leo will be a really beautiful heart healing space. And then Next week has a lot more changes to it, as the entire week has a lot of Uranus energy also. So that's going to be kind of spontaneous, really providing us with these sort of springboard points where we can start to progress into the future, even though we still have a lot of planets retrograde. We have Venus reaching a culmination point in her retrograde. And we have a big turning point coming up here this week. So I feel good about it. I hope you do too. And if you need to get a hold of me, you can do so at the Cosmic Community at kpov.org. Send me an email. I can help you access your own astrological birth chart, or help you walk through any questions, answer any questions, walk you through anything that's still a little cloudy for you in terms of the astrology here. And other than that, I will be back next week, and I really appreciate you being here with me. I hope you have a good week. I will talk to you then. Thank you. Peace. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Community Podcast. More can be found at kpov.org/thecosmiccommunity.